Welcome once again into Black and Gold Insider. This is the show where we get to know the members of the Black and Gold a little bit better. We're concentrated on the field, but we're going to go into an area where so many people are interested, the front office, in particular, the man who is the vice president of soccer operations, Mario Ancheta, joining us. And Mario, great to be with you. I know it's always busy over there at the Performance Center, so we appreciate you making a little bit of time.
Of course, Max, anytime. We're here.
Looking
the door
good,
open
man.
For you.
Looking clean.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just for the Black and Gold episode. So yeah, we can keep on rolling.
Indeed. I'm excited so people get to know what you do there when you're at the Performance Center. Mario is ever present, talking to the coaches, the players, you name it. He's got a lot on his plate, but I want to talk to you about your responsibilities. But tell us a little bit about where you're from.
I'm originally from Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. Obviously, it's on the northwest of Mexico, just borders with Arizona, just so everybody can get an idea. So yeah, Hermosillo is basically known for being a baseball town. Usually, there was not a lot of soccer when I was growing up. It kind of started increasing a little bit more after I went to college. We had a few Liga MX teams investing some money there and just having some satellite academies. I think there's a very hotbed of talent there. We have a top prospects from Mexico, Tecatito being one of them that just came from that area. So it's good to see that there's been some more focus on soccer in that area in Mexico as well.
Yeah, it's changing because Carlos Vela is from Cancun. That's baseball country too, right?
Yeah, exactly right. But it's good that there's Mexico is a big country, just like the U.S., and it's very hard to capture all the talent that there is, given that there's a very small number of Liga MX professional teams in first division. So it's always good to see, the investment being increased in different areas, not just in those local markets where they operate in.
Since you bring it up, I'm curious, what are your thoughts about the relationship with MLS, Liga MX? We know the Leagues Cup and so many other ways to, amplify that relationship and the clubs from both. How do you see it and where do you see it going?
I think I had front row to how the league has evolved over the years, just working at the league office for several years before I joined LAFC. So it's been, a quite impressive growth overall, not just, in collaboration with Liga MX now that they created Leagues Cup and other tournaments. I think the league is heading in the right direction. There's more investment in infrastructure, better players coming in. The quality on the field has increased so much in the last 5-10 years. So I think that's going to keep growing. And I think the collaboration between Liga MX and MLS is just going to keep increasing. I mean, it's only natural, right? Like border countries, there's so much potential in both areas. And again, they're such big countries where talent can sometimes be missed, just given how vast the territory is. So it's always good to see, having more collaborations between clubs, whether that's on the field, off the field, commercially. Like it doesn't matter, right? It's always good to see more investments come into soccer in both countries.
Hey, I always say, together we're stronger. So, brothers in arms with our friends down south of the border. How did you get into the sport? And I'm curious because were you more into baseball? Did you do in Hermosillo? Did you do both, or was it football all the time?
For me, it was football all the time, soccer. Obviously, being from Hermosillo, we were playing all games: baseball, basketball, tennis, like you name it. I was playing all kinds of different sports, but my main focus was always soccer. I was sometimes juggling multiple clubs at the same time, playing different competitions, having double headers over the weekends. But it's always been soccer. And obviously not having a local team when I was growing up, it was kind of hard to find my own team to support in Mexico. So I was kind of more focused on the European soccer side of things. So I was watching a lot of La Liga back in the days. It was pretty competitive with, you had obviously the two big teams, but you also had Atletico Madrid, Deportivo La Coruña, Valencia. Those teams were also competing at the top, which it was incredible back in the days, right? So, but no, it was always been soccer for me. Obviously, I still keep some interest in other sports. I follow them closely. It doesn't matter, but, soccer, it's always been number one.
Who's your team?
Liverpool.
I was like, okay, He said he likes a lot of teams in Mexico. Maybe he'll do La Liga. He goes right to Liverpool.
No. It's to be fair, it's been Real Madrid. The Galacticos era was, the main team I was following back in the days. Just given the different cultures and different guys that they brought in, it was just amazing to watch. How they turn around Real Madrid back in those days.
Who is your Galactico? Who's the go-to? I mean, that was amazing when you think about it. I mean, I see some videos, not even with the players, but the coaches. But who was the guy that you were like, that's the one?
I think you have to go with Ronaldo Phenomenal, right? He was
good choice.
He was, incredible to watch him. How perform on the pitch. He just incredible. There's no words to describe what he did on the pitch. And at least for me, when I was growing up, the impact he had for me to, follow soccer. It was great.
Oh, fantastic. There is no wrong answer, by the way, but that's a very good one. So let's talk about your role with LAFC. How would you describe what you do with the club?
Well, some people would say I'm the money guy, just managing the salary cap and trying to navigate through all the MLS rules and FIFA regulations as well, right? The league keeps changing year after year, especially after Messi came into the league as well. Obviously, there's been some changes in the rules, so it's always good to be, innovating and trying different things. But it could sometimes become a little bit challenging when you're trying to put rosters together, having those rule changes, whether they happen in the middle of the year or at the end, right before you start a new season. So it's always, kind of like being in school that you're learning new stuff, new rules. How do they work? How do they integrate with the previous rules and all the impact that it has on your roster, right? When you're going, from one season to the next. So yeah, basically my job is to safeguard those goals that we have as a team to be successful year after year and be winning championships. So we have to be just navigating those rules and the budget, right? The salary cap, to be sure that we're setting up ourselves to success for the next season as well, not just, focusing on this year alone, but also going into 26 or 27 season, right?
It's really intricate. And you talked about the time you spent in the league office. Is it possible that somebody from outside of knowledge of MLS could do the job you did because of all those levers and the salary cap, the allocation money, everything that comes with it, dealing with a super draft and all those things you have at your fingertips? How hard would it be to teach somebody all of those things?
Look, we do this on a constant basis, whether it's new staff coming in or our partners with Bayern Munich, that sometimes they might be interested in how MLS works and the salary cap and the different rules that we have, or different people, right, from the outside, whether it's Liga MX or scouts or agents. There's a lot of people that are very curious to know how it actually works in the insides. It's quite easy to explain. It's not the same when you're already on a day-to-day basis and there's a lot of moving pieces with players, going on trades, drafts, etc. It's not as easy as it sounds, but I would say it's pretty easy to get yourself even more curious about how it works and more questions come up as you go. But yeah, look, I do it on a daily basis almost, just do one-on-ones about how MLS works. We do it with our scouts all the time because, we're asking them to go look for this kind of players or this type of players, and we have this X amount of budget. So sometimes they have a lot of questions about like, hey, what if we do this? How would that impact and stuff like that, right? So it's a work in progress always. Even for myself, that I spent some time at the league office, but for the folks at the league office themselves, sometimes new scenarios come up that they didn't think about or we didn't think about when the rules were being set up, right?
Well, they gave it to the broadcasters. I'm flipping through the pages and I'm like, I'll leave it to Mario because there is so much fine tuning and small print, whatever it is. But it's complicated, but it's beautiful in the same way. And just so it's clear. So you and the staff and John and all that would look at, all right, we have this in our budget, and we are looking for this kind of player. And then that's where you would hand it off to the scouts and they would come back with some options about how it might be able to work. Is that more or less?
Yeah. So we have, weekly meetings where we sit down, John, Neil, coaching staff, myself, and we just discuss, what the plans are, what the goals are, what are the most, the needs for going to the next transfer window or at the right moment, right? And we just discussed what we think is best and how we could get to that goal, in the best way going forward. And then after that, once we set up those goals and parameters, we go out and talk to the scouts, basically, just to lay out the expectations and what we need for them to start, looking at targets heading to the transfer window.
And then they'll have a big network, and they'll come and say, "What do you think about this guy?" And you guys will look through it over and go, "This is a match," or "If this isn't a match."
Exactly. Oh, wow. And then, yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's a lot of work too.
Of course. I can't imagine, because this is a global game, Mario, and we're dealing with, not just North America, but we've looked at the roster on LAFC, and players are coming from everywhere. I mean, just this year, a Norwegian player played in Scotland, a Ukrainian. We know about the connections to Central America and South America. So, I mean, you guys cast a very, you always have, and you still do cast a very wide net.
Yeah, and look, it's again, you never know where the talent is going to come from. So it's always good to have people on the ground as well that knows the market, knows people there. And it's always, about evolving and trying to make ourselves better year after year. In MLS, it's very hard to keep the same roster together. Everybody knows that, just because of whether it's salary constraints or contracts coming up. And, again, like you mentioned, it's an international market. So maybe somebody comes in with an offer, right, that we might need to transfer a player out or loan him out or whatever it is. So you always have to be on your toes, basically, and be prepared if one of those offers come in, or if we have an unfortunate injury, and we have to replace that player, right? So it's always something that it is very dynamic when you're trying, go through the season and dealing with different situations.
I'm telling you, Mario, this is Mario Ancheta, the LAFC Vice President of Soccer Operations. We were really thrilled to have this show, because this is really interesting, and people want to know the business of soccer and all the arms. There are a lot of them. And I imagine it's huge that you have a collaborative approach. And you mentioned John, Neil, and Steve, and the coaches. And how important is that for you to do your job? And how has it been with the club, where they are open to having so many voices in these big decisions?
Look, I think everybody treats each other with a lot of respect and respect each other's opinions. We have an open space, which is very uncommon in the world of football here in the PC, right? So there's always open conversations that invites people to collaborate and be a real teamwork when we're trying to get to the goals that we set up ourselves going to each year, right? So it makes it quite easier when you're dealing with the different scenarios, right? Because you're not just having a conversation one-on-one. There's also different people that can be listening in, and they might have a different opinion, different idea. And it's always welcoming just to keep the team evolving as we go, right? Because it's not always there's a right or wrong answers. There's many different answers that can solve the problem that we may be dealing with at that moment.
That's brilliant. And you're just talking about the PC, how it's an open floor plan. So you go, hey, what about this? And those conversations are constantly taking place.
Correct. Yes.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the job?
Look, for me, it's learning every day, whether it's from the staff, John, Neil, the coaching staff, players. It's always changing, and it's always a different situation that we're facing. So for me, it's always learning new things going through the season. And again, it's not easy. It's not always the same answer that would get you to the place that you want to go to. So for me, it's just a continued learning day after day.
And when I'm at the PC, I see you so often talking to players. And what are those? How important are those relationships like? Because I know obviously it's a business too, and there's like news you have to convey. But creating those, I imagine you have a good relationship with every player on that roster.
Yes, I do. And look, it's important so players can understand that they have a voice, and the club are listening to them as well. Because our main objective is for them to forget about everything outside the pitch, right? So they can perform the best when they're on the pitch. So it's always about having that open line of communication to them to make them feel comfortable. You have players coming in from very different parts of the world, and sometimes we forget that players are human as well, and they have their own different situations, whether it's personal, family, whatever it is, right? So we have to keep an open line of communication to help them out and make sure they can perform on the pitch when the time comes, right? So for me, it's just keeping that good relationship and making sure that they feel like they're being listened to, and we take action based on that feedback that we're getting, or maybe they need support with something, and if the team can help them resolve that issue that they may have, I'm all for it.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking about a guy like David Martinez, teenager, Venezuela, whole new world. I mean, he has never just heard of Los Angeles, and now he's living in it. I mean, that's those things where you need a little extra layer too to help these guys adapt. And you see David, he seems like a very happy guy. That's obviously your handiwork.
Yes, and look, I'm bilingual, so it helps as well to get a better understanding from David. He's coming from Venezuela. Obviously, it's not the same culture as Mexico, but it's similar Latin American. So there's some similarities there that you can relate to, right? When it comes to players like David or other players coming from other parts of the world where Spanish is their main language, and it just helps. It goes a long way, especially you mentioned David, but there's many different examples. Especially David coming from 18 years old, landing in LA. Can you imagine just driving a highway 65 miles per hour? Like it is just a complete different world, right? So we try to make them feel as comfortable as possible and just make sure they understand what LA is and what we represent, and it makes it easier for them to then go and perform on the pitch and understand the city as a whole, the fans, the team, the culture that it's been built here in LAFC.
Mario Ancheta, the pride of Hermosillo. Great to have you with the club. But before I let you go, your view of the league, where it's growing. You've worked with the league, you've worked with the club. We're excited about it. What excites you about the future?
Look, I think there's going to continue improving the on-field quality. It is an area that, if you look past 10 years, it's increased dramatically. There's a real commitment from ownership across all levels, infrastructure, player development. There's collaborations with Mexico, Canada. Like, there's just so many different projects going on in MLS. I think that's going to continue in the future as well. So I'm really excited just to see how that's going to impact as well, heading into the World Cup next year, and then the years after that. I think that's going to keep moving things forward as the league as a whole, and just keep attracting the top talent in the world.
It's going to be crazy next summer, man.
I can't wait.
I can't wait. I was excited. I'm more excited. Mario Ancheta. Hey, thanks for joining us, Mario. We really appreciate it. So we get to know you a little better and what you do and what makes this club so tremendous.
Appreciate the time, Max.
Good man. Black and Gold Insider, where you get to hear these. Look at that smiling face. You get to hear these great conversations. We'll be back again next week with all the great stories of the Black and Gold. Until then, this is Max Bretos. Go Black and Gold.